Hello, fellow Disney nuiMO crafters. This has been a long time coming since I did my blog, and I know a lot of you have been waiting for me to do some videos here on YouTube. So today I figured I would start off by making these little t-shirts. Figured let's start with the basics, go from there, see how it goes. Right here, I can tell you show you the t-shirt that's on, a little nuiMO. This is Angel. She's a little bit bigger than some of the other nuiMOs, especially when you've got like the little skirt underneath her. But it still fits her just fine. If you want to have the opportunity to make your own little t-shirts for your nuiMOs, I have the patterns up on my blog. You can find them on disneynuiMOsdiy.blogspot.com. I'll share the link in the description just so you guys can get a hold of it. Now, the way that I printed this one is that I saved it to my photos and I printed it right from the photo viewer and made it to fill the whole page. And I was able to get something. See, this is my original pattern. It's just fine. It's like a teeny bit smaller, but it should be okay. It should fit your nuiMOs just fine. You can see here, right? And so on this one, I just have the short sleeve, but there are some other ones, other patterns on the blog where there's a little long sleeve version as well. So if you don't want to have a short sleeve version of the shirt, then you can have a long one. This is just another one I added on here because this is the first pattern I originally did. And this pattern was, as you can tell, way too big. It was kind of ridiculous, actually. So I was able to figure it out to make them this small. And so today, I'm going to make and show you how to do a little shirt. And as you can see on this one, you can design your shirts however you want. This one I put, it's like little tiny tulips. I don't know how easy it is to see. The little tiny tulips with my sewing machine. It's got some different patterns onto it. Okay, so to start off to make your own shirt, you're going to need some fabric of your choice. Today I'm going to use this one. This one I just bought at Walmart. It's a cotton fabric. It's in one of those fat quarters, which is why it's got all of these creases. I should sit there and iron it all out so it can look perfect. But once it gets on them, it's not... We'll see. We'll see if I decide to actually iron this out. So you're going to need your your fabric. I prefer to use a cotton because it's easier to work with. Your pattern and whatever, short sleeve, long sleeve, whatever you need. Probably some pins. I tend not to use them, but that's me being lazy. Some Fray check or some sort of anti-fray stuff or glue or probably not tacky glue that you can put on the edge as soon as you cut out here so it doesn't become like a fraying mess when you start sewing. And then of course you'll need your sewing machine or your needles and some thread, right? And then the last thing you'll need is some type of closure. So you can either use, I got snaps like this. Easy enough to add on. You hand sew them. Or you have Velcro. I buy this Velcro that's like, see right here, it's like 2 inches thick. And what I do is I'll just only snip like, what is that, maybe 1/4 of an inch? And then that way I have like a whole bunch of it. It's like a yard when I first bought it, I believe. And it's lasted me a really long time. So those are the things you're going to need to get started. So, we're going to pin down our patterns. Let's see, that's the bright color. This is the right side, right? I'm going to pin down our patterns to make sure that we get what we need. So I'm going to first do this one. And I pin in this direction. Sometimes you can pin like across, you know, parallel, like that way. But I prefer to do it this way so the fabric doesn't shift on me as much. So I'm going to pin this one down. Let's put these here because so I can cut out 2 patterns easier. I'm going to take off this one right now. And I'll show you what I mean, how I can get my mirrored ones easier. So I'm going to go ahead and... Oh yeah, with these patterns, these seam allowances are added into the pattern, so you don't have to worry about adding extra. You can always add extra if you want a little bit more wiggle room. Especially, you'll see by what I mean, how small the seams are. So that's that one, just for now. Because what I want to do with this is now kind of fold this in half so I can cut 2 of this one that's mirror imaged at the same time, because I think it's super annoying actually to have to cut this multiple times when you only have to do the job once, right? Come on, fabric. My desk is so tiny. Pin this one.
And we'll do the same thing for the sleeve.
So now I'm going to cut this out carefully. A little close, so I don't have to worry about wasting too much of this fabric here. So the nice thing about fat quarters is that you actually get quite a bit of fabric, especially for nuiMOs, because they're so tiny, which makes them so great to be our companions, right? Okay.
Now I'm going to cut all of these patterns out.
See, there's the front. All right, see, we got 2 mirrored image back pieces. And technically, these can even be front pieces, right? Because Angel, as you can see, this could be the back of the shirt, and this could be front, and you could add like little buttons, or, you know, maybe it's just like a, or even with no sleeves, right? You can just make a vest that way. So let's see. So now I'm going to sit here and do this fray check on all of the edges. So that way it doesn't become a big mess. Ugh. You may want to test this also on some fabric before you do this, because sometimes fray check can change the color of the fabric just ever so slightly. Like there's one fabric that I dyed that it was a nice purple. Actually, it's the fabric that's on her skirt. And then it kind of turned the edges like a slightly hot pink. I mean, it's probably not a huge deal since these are the edges that are going to be hidden after you're done sewing. But if you don't like it, then just make sure and test it out first. Let's see. It's darker right now. It's darker right now along these edges, but it should, once it's dry, it should dry the color that I want it to be. Well, I guess something else to note as you're doing this, it's usually easier because, you know, fabric like this is kind of woven, right? And so it's like woven into each other. And so the little frays, sometimes if you like go against the frays, it's harder to fray check. So like with this one, it's easier. Instead of like going up on the curve against the weave, you should probably do it downwards. So that way you make sure you get all of your threads fray checked. Okay, as you can see, some of it's drying. It's a little darker here, but this one, the very first one we did, is all the way dry, and the color is very basically imperceptible from what, you know, how dark it was on this one, right? So you won't even notice. So the very first thing to start sewing is to take our little sleeves and we're going to hem the bottom. So now my seam allowances are very tiny. Let's see. You're going to take this bottom, and it's not going to be very big, like at all. It's only going to be like that big. Let's see. Let's move that out of the way. Maybe you can see better. Like so tiny. So take your time, right? So let's see. Yeah, that's like, I'm measuring it really quick. That's like 1/4 of an inch. All right. So here I've got my 2 sleeves hemmed. You can see the tiny little stitches there on that tiny little hem. So make sure you do that first. So then the next step is going to be attaching to the shoulders. So you're going to take this one and go over here and see how that matches up perfectly and lays. So you want to sew on the little shoulders right here on both sides. So we're only going to sew these little parts. I'll show you how small that hem is as soon as I get this set up. All right, so here I've got my little shoulder ready to get sewn onto the sewing machine. So as you can tell, here's where my needle's right there, and I have got the edge of the fabric lined up with the hole right here inside the presser foot. That's really how small that I do these. I know it's kind of difficult, so just take your time, just go slow as you need to. Maybe hand sewing some of these parts is a little bit easier. So I'm going to go ahead and sew these little spots and we'll catch up from there. All right, so here I am. I got my shoulders all sewn right there. Get the sleeves ready. So what we're going to do is we're going to flip it out and kind of just press these seams a little bit with my fingers. You can do this with a ironing board and iron and all that jazz, but these things are so tiny that I find that it's not super necessary. So now the next part is probably the hardest part on doing these shirts. I'm designing a shirt right now, so where you can kind of avoid having to go around this one step, so it can be a little bit easier. But with this shirt, the original shirt, you'll have to take these sleeves and attach it to these curves right here. It's pretty tricky. I find pinning gets in the way for me. The pins are just all over the place and they're pokey. So what you need to do is you'll flip it with the right side up, and then you can pin it if you want. For me, I don't, and it's probably me being lazy. But if you want to go ahead and try and make this as neat as possible, I would suggest that you do that. So I'm going to, okay, I'll pin it this one time so we can see how this goes. First time I did it, I didn't like it. We'll see if I like it this time. Now you can see I'm pinning super close, right? Because those seams are going to be the same width as those seams, as everything else. So let's see. I gotta try and match all this up. And there's always probably going to be like a tiny little pucker. And by pucker, I mean, I think Angel has one here somewhere. Let's see, yeah, see this? I don't know if you can see that. This tiny itty bitty pucker. You probably didn't even notice it before until I told you, right? So, don't worry. You're gonna do all right. let's go ahead and keep pinning this down just the best we can. Just remember, take it one little baby step at a time. See, I might have not put that right in the middle, actually. In fact, if you just want to avoid the sewing machine at all, go right on ahead. This step might be easier for you to just hand sew it. And now this is actually a whole lot easier to pin because I'm fray checking the fabric. Before, it was kind of hard to even pin these tiny little seams because there's pieces of threads like everywhere. It was a nightmare. So let's see. Tiny one more. Oh, see? Yeah, that's gonna... See, we flip it around, it's attached like that. We've got our right side to our right side. So yeah, take your time. Let's see. I'm gonna see if I can get a close-up on the machine as I'm sewing this so you can kind of see what I do. Okay, so when I'm sewing this, I like to keep the needle down. My machine has an option where it'll just keep it down for me. So I can slowly stop and rotate and lift up my presser foot if I have to, right? You can see. So let's go ahead and get this. So let's see. Let's get all these needles off, or pins. Ooh. Drop one. Okay. See, whoops. That's a big no-no. That's a big pucker. That's gonna show. So I'm gonna have to fix that really quick. Let's get my... I guess that's something you might need, is a seam ripper, right? So let's get that seam ripper and fix this little part, huh? See, it's not very focused on me. There we go. So we're gonna rip these little seams. See, and I think this is why I don't like pins. Because I typically don't have to worry about that part. So now what I'm gonna do, scoot that back, scoot these in, flatten that out. So now here we go. Gotta fix that. Snip that. Snip that. So let's see. See, now it's just the tiniest pucker, so that should be okay. Oh, look. Let's see how that works on the other side. Well, that's not going to be too bad, maybe, once they're wearing it. Maybe, okay. Darn, right? Now I can see why I don't like pinning them down. I typically don't have this much trouble. Ooh. I hope I got that. Ooh, look at that. Just barely. So let's see. See, it looks like I got it, huh? Yeah. So when it gets whipped out. So there we go. It's not too bad, huh? Okay. This time I'm just going to do it without my pins. You guys can kind of see how I rotate it as I attach it on. Because that was a pain in the butt. So I'm going to line up these corners here. Move these threads back. I'm going to try and get a little closer to my machine so I can see what I'm doing a little better. There we go. See, it looks like I did better by doing that. See, I just slowly took my time. I moved the foot ever so up in the fabric underneath. And look, that was a lot better that time around. Okay. So I'm gonna scoot this back so the thing stops focusing so much on there. So now, once you got both your sleeves attached, it'll look like this. Just looks kind of strange, right? So now to make it really work, what you'll have to do is you'll take this side. Maybe you have to take this side. You match up the ends of your sleeved hem and the bottom of your shirt. And so you can pin that right there. You'll sew down this and then down that all at one go. You don't have to worry about picking up your needle and starting again. Move my machine closer again so I can sew that part. The same seam allowance size, just right there at the hole of the foot, right? So maybe I can get closer again. There we go. Pick up the foot, rotate, make sure that this is on that edge. Back stitch. Let's go out. You see? We got our first part of our shirt ready, and with a little sleeve hole, or just a little sleeve hole, what the heck, right there. So I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. So there's the front of your shirt with everything attached, right? So now the next part we're going to work on is doing the hem that goes along the collar. And that part, again, is tricky. I don't know if it's quite as tricky as attaching the sleeves, but again, just take your time, take it slow, because this one is going to be even smaller. I usually start at this edge, and I'm barely doing anything right here. Like it's like 1/8 of an inch. It's so tiny, and I'm going to be sewing across that the whole way around the collar. So let's get in closer again. Ooh, can you see kind of like how small that's going to be in there? Put the needle down, right? So this one again, I keep my needle down so I can rotate when I have to. Pin it if you have to, but I don't know how you're gonna pin it because it's really tiny. Oh my gosh. I think I'm gonna have to redo that, but just do what you can, right? Just thankfully it's close to their necks. It's not super noticeable, but that one's kind of gross. But just see, and I've done several of these, so just be careful. Just take your time. Okay, so now let's go back out. Now that we have our collar done on our shirt, what I'm going to do now is kind of press these side hems a little open with our fingers like we did with those shoulder seams, because we're going to prepare to do our bottom hem of our shirt, which is going to be the same distance or width as our sleeves, right? So it's only like 1/4 of an inch. You can totally sew it by putting it in the machine this way, but I like to flip it around so that the stitches don't look like that, but they actually look like this, which is like normal stitching, right? Because that's the top part and that's like the underside. But if you want to do it like that, go ahead. I'm gonna do it, I guess you can call it blind, just so you can get a more polished look on the bottom of the shirt. Right, so you can see, right? My stitches look like stitches instead of that in the back. Which I think is probably because my tension's a little weird on my machine, so I'll have to fix that later. So now what I'm going to do is got the collar and there's the bottom of the shirt. I'm going to do the same thing to the edges. Oy. Camera. There we go. Let's do the same thing to the edges. Just as the bottom. Oh man, that got a little wonky right there. Scoot that back, right? It's a little bit odd right there, but that's okay. Because once push your sleeves out, this is your little shirt. But now we need to add a way to close it so they can actually wear their clothes. Unless you leave it open, then it's just like some sort of short sleeve jacket or bolero or whatever you want to have, right? So let's see, I need to cut a piece of my Velcro. Remember I got my like 2-inch thick Velcro. Let's go down here. So I'm only going to cut like, oh, why am I doing it this way? Like a 1/4 inch thick here. So it's not perfect, but it works, right? And so see, it's a little bit long, so I'm going to have to trim the edges a bit. Which is okay. Oh, there you go. Now I like to, it doesn't really matter which side you kind of attach these to, but I like to do it like the official nuiMOs shirts. So I'll take this, I guess when you're looking at it, it's your left, right? And so I'll take the hook part. Yeah, I'll take the hook part or the scratchy part of your Velcro and I'll put it on here. And then I'm going to sew a rectangle around the whole thing.
Of course, pin replace if you have to. For me, the pin's just getting in the way. So I'm going to put my needle down. And I'm carefully going to go around. Oops, that's funny. My trim needs to now get in the way.
Trim that. So there's that. So the left side will have it right on the right side. And then the right side of the shirt, you'll attach the Velcro to this side. So when you close it, it'll match up perfectly. So I'm going to go ahead and sew that on. Not perfect, but it's handmade, so it doesn't have to be, right? But here you go. As soon as you do this, you close it up, you've made your first nuiMOs shirt. I realized while I was working on this, it's Tinkerbell, right? It's Tinkerbell's colors, so I thought that was kind of fun. So here we go. I'll show you what it looks like when it's on one. And here's our little shirt. On Belle, the newest nuiMO that has come to America. Japan's had her for a little while, but that's okay. We got her and she's adorable. But see, here's our shirt in the back. All on the front here. See all those little imperfections? Unless you're really looking for them, you really can't notice them, right? So, I'm gonna match it with this cute little skirt, which I will show you guys how to do in the next video as a basic. But I hope that everything in this video was super clear. I hope you guys bear with me as I'm learning to do YouTube. But this is Belle wearing the shirt we wore today. And so remember, you can make all kinds of fun patterns, right? One of my favorites is this one just because of the sparkle. And then you can do all kinds of things to like the edges to embellish them, to make them like yours and make them unique. So you don't have to keep, like, I like the clothes that Disney has, but sometimes you just want something that's unique and your own. And this way you can definitely get something that's very unique and your own. And it's your own creation. You can show it up and be like, hey, look what I made. Isn't this great? But yeah, this one. I should have done the tulips in a different color so you can see them better. But either way, it's cute. So you can do them all kinds. I hope you guys are able to understand. Hope you had fun. I hope it's not too frustrating. Take your time. Just take your time. And I hope you have fun. Have fun crafting. Make fun, cute little outfits. Show it to me. Show it here in the comments. I don't think you can do... No, you can't do pictures on YouTube comments, but you can share it with me on the Instagram for disneynuiMOsdiy. It's just that, disneynuiMOsdiy, no hyphens or anything. And also on the blog, disneynuiMOs.blogspot.com. I'd love to see your creations, love to see what you come up with. Thanks for watching.